In the early 20th century, the globe was on the embers of a grand revolution. For the past 3 to 4 centuries, the Western European colonial powers had dominated most of the world, politically, financially, and in every other method you can think. The resources were handled by them, the political institutions, and any other thing that you can put your eyes on were run by them. But after the advent of democracy in the same Western European colonial nations, the world realized that the way that they were living in for the past centuries was not the only method. After the French Revolution, whole of the European colonial powers gradually turned to some form of democracy, and their thoughts and ideas were flowing across the globe. India, obviously, was no exception. After 1857, Indians were nearly subdued under the British colonial law. But in the early 1900s, after grasping some air from the Japanese, from the Europeans, and all across the globe, Indians realized that there is a way for freedom. And in this, there was a special moment that erupted from the Sikh community that is known as the Gadar movement. The seeds of the Gadar movement were sown in the aftermath of the 1857 Sepoy Mutiny. The rebellion, as I have already told, was not successful. The brutality of the British in the 1857 revolution pushed many Indians out of India, which guaranteed more freedom, better opportunities, and a lack of the poverty that had hit India after the British laws had come into place. Among these immigrants who had gone to the Western nations, the Sikh community played a pivotal role, driven by their strong sense of identity, martial tradition. The concept of Khalsa emerged once again. They found themselves facing racial discrimination, harsh working conditions in their new lands. This ignited a burning desire for justice, not just for themselves, but for their mother. In 1913, in the heart of San Francisco, a group of Sikh immigrants formed the Gadar Party, led by fierce revolutionaries like Lala Hardayal, Sohan Singh Bhakna, and Kartar Singh Saraba. The party aimed to overthrow the British rule in India through an armed uprising. This was in contrast to the Gandhian narrative of dealing with the British through treaties and through dialogues, while the Gadarites believed an armed revolution was the way. The Gadar Party's voice resonated through their powerful publication, The Gadar, a revolutionary newspaper published in many languages: Hindi, English, Punjabi, and Urdu, filled with passionate articles and calls to action. The Gadar became a symbol of resistance and a rallying point for the movement. In the year 1914, World War I broke down. But a key point that the Western powers always miss is that it wasn't as much as the World War, but it was war amongst the European powers who had been controlling the globe, which in turn made it the World War. Which means, at the end of the day, it was the Europeans who were fighting amongst themselves. The Gadarites saw this as a wonderful opportunity to raise an armed rebellion against the British officials residing in India, which would force them to leave India for good. Since the fall of the Sikh Empire in 1939, the Sikh regiment was a very strong part of British army, and the British were very smart to use the resources at their hands. They knew that Sikhs were gallant warriors with their martial traditions, with their extremely talented and quick ways. They were always one of the best warriors in whatever parts of the world they fought. Now, once they were assimilated in the British army, the Sikh regiment was trained with European weapons and new technologies as well. This made sure that a handful number of Sikhs were always well trained and knew how to carry weapons. This was a big plus for the Gadarites because all they had to do was to galvanize the Sikhs in India and in Britain, who had already been a part of the British Army, to come back, use their martial techniques and warring skills to the good of their own people instead of serving the British. Now, with the burning desire to be free, not just to roam around, but to be free to move to newer places, to be free from racism, was glooming all across the Indian community. One such incident, known as the Komagata Maru incident, took place in 1940 when a ship full of people from the Sikh community landed upon the Canada coast but denied entry into the Canadian nation. They put out immediate protests, which led into aggression from the Canadian side that further led to a number of deaths amongst the people on the ship. This further enraged the already angry Sikh community, which was trying to flee the British racism in India, and now they had met with the same brutal way in Canada as well. This further galvanized the Indian Sikh community to forming a well-trained armed rebellion against their colonial overmasters. In 1915, inspired by the Gadar party's call, Indian soldiers stationed in Singapore mutinied. They planned to seize control of the city and sparked a wider rebellion across British-held territories in South Asia. However, the plot was foiled by British intelligence and the uprising was ruthlessly crushed. This also resulted in the martyrdom of Kartar Singh Sarabha, a very important figure of the Gadar movement. Mind you, there's a very important aspect of the Gadar movement that's usually missed. It had very close links with likes of Bhagat Singh and Sardar Udham Singh, who were going by the same method of assassinating British officials who were at fault of Indians. But as you all know, not every good thing lasts for too long. Slowly and gradually, the British overcame the Gadar movement and destroyed it to its core. But the flames that rose from the Gadar movement became a crucial and pivotal point in trying to achieve the Indian freedom that we know today.